empty-handed, it won't make sense. Was Chef Shingi. Then he was like, you know what? Just for that reason, I'm not coming into studio. I'm gonna do this from my garden. And then do topic nasi. It's okay, Chef Shingi. I see you. La
Zadani, don't be like that.
mina vele manje I'm like that. I'm
Yeah,
very
I think
unhinged.
you know that this is my favorite place to be on earth, and I thought to myself, you know, what, why not share exactly why? And I don't know, Red, you know why we haven't done it this year, but you know what, this was the perfect opportunity because I'm right in the middle of my garden, and I can hear the chirping noise of the birds and the wind blowing gently against the leaves of the trees. Ew, lava zvangu setting kanaka, and you know what, I think it's best to share the little secrets that can really transform.
Chimbomira tisati tapinda igadheni yako here kana kuti ndeyamai vako? It sounds too good to be true.
Oh goodness, this is mine. I mean, this is like exactly why I feel like my work thrives because I love this thing. Like it's my baby, it's my little baby.
Okay. A man that cooks and gardens. Hey, sounds too good to be true.
Well, it is true, and it can be shared with the rest of our audiences in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, why not stay tuned and find out exactly what you might be missing that you can actually have at the disposal of your own backyard.
Interesting. Please enlighten us.
Yeah, so you know what? Like, have you ever like been? I know you're a food lover, but like, have you ever been like in that situation where you're in the middle of a recipe and you're feeling like a genius, and then you find out, ish, there's something missing, and you're missing like just like a touch of fresh herbs, and yeah, like you just feel a little bit lost in that recipe that you thought you were being a genius on. All of a sudden, starts feeling like it's gonna be thrown down the drain.
Yep, I have,
Yeah,
Shem. I have. I don't even want to lie. I have. Just
yeah.
one little thing.
Yep, and then that's going to be the point where you decide like you need to change things around. And I think we needed to share this at the beginning of the year because this should be part of those New Year resolutions because yeah, you can start right away and you don't need to actually be a pro at this. You don't need to be like experienced or anything like that because I will share just a few of the things that are really so easy to grow. And we start with just the first idea. I think no experience needed, like I've just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You grow what you eat, guys. If you don't like cilantro, don't plant it. So there's no need to make enemies in your own garden. Um, but here are my like easy to grow kitchen transforming plants, and we're going to begin with basil. And I'm standing right in front of my basil plants, which have reached the point where they're actually bolting. So bolting is like a stage when they actually start producing flowers, and you get bees coming in and pollinating and just moving the fragrance all around the garden. And basil is like the Beyonce of herbs, guys. It loves sunshine. It grows fast. And it makes your pasta taste like it came from a five-star restaurant in Rome.
Oh, yes, it
You know?
does.
Yeah, just that fragrance, that beautiful, beautiful aroma that it transports into your food is something that you never want to miss out on. And basically, it's so easy to grow. So you get basil seeds everywhere in the supermarkets. If you just, find those little corners that have gardening seed sachets, you just basically just sprinkle them into the ground and make sure you water them. The ground must be moist at all times, and they'll start popping up so freely and so easily. And then you can transport them into plants, into pot plants that can actually stay on the windowsill of your kitchen, and or just leave them into the ground and let them grow away. And they will grow for quite a long time. So you don't need to be like thinking, oh gosh, I've been busy in the digam garden. Kuti zvinhu zvingoita 2 weeks zvinobva zvanzi zvakudawo kuti ndiitwe futi panyowane. No, it's not one of those dramatic birds. It really, really stands its ground and can, sort of go along, let's just say 3 or 4 months, and can keep just harvesting it almost every day if you found a nice recipe that you can use. In fact, the recipe that I'll share today is actually got a touch of basil, and it's a finishing salt, and you'll see exactly why you need fresh or more fresh herbs in your garden, in your kitchen garden. But we move on, okay? And
Okay.
we talk about rosemary as the next thing. This is that gift that keeps on giving. It's got a woody fragrant, um, and just perfect for meat, potatoes, and even in cocktails. Like this thing is versatile. Kwana pakawanda on. Um, but
And
yeah, yeah.
cocktail yo naka. But I've heard people say it's nice, but yeah, it's the one.
Yeah, this is really really one of those, like, like you can sort of put it in a sweet, savory. You can use it for baking. You can also use it for salads. You can use it for a lot of things. But just be warned, because this thing grows into a bush, right? It's like one of those friends who overstays their welcome, you know. So you want to make sure that you have enough rosemary recipes for life, just so that you can, keep using it, keep being interested in wanting to, put it in your dishes, because it's going to stay in your garden for a really, really long time. I mean, the plants that I have, that I use for my rosemary, have been growing for years and years. And, one of the little tricks is just to prune them in such a way that you can control your bush, that it doesn't grow messy, and it doesn't actually, sort of grow into a point where you don't get that new sort of bud. Because I think one thing that's also important, like the longer that the herbs grow in your garden, right, the more you really need to tend to them to just make sure that they actually keep growing in a manner that, allows them to keep producing all the good that they can, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, rosemary is one of those, and you want to use it, like I said, then sweet, savory, baking. You can dry it, you can use it fresh, you can use it in cocktails. We all love a good drink at the end of some hard work in the garden, don't we?
So, Chef Shingi, I've also heard of this thing called companion farming, where let's say you probably plant your tomatoes, then you plant your sunflower seeds next to the tomatoes, and then the parasites will run away from eating your tomatoes because of the sunflower seeds. But at the same time, no kwanisa kujgao kuma sunflower seeds. I was like, oh, that's so interesting that you can plant flowers that you can eat next to, vegetables and fruits, and they help keep everything much better.
Yeah, this is so true, eh? So there is such a thing called companion planting, and this is basically, I'll just rephrase sort of what you've said, where
Mm-hmm.
plants can live together because of the benefits that they can sort of share
Mm-hmm.
from being in the same sort of environment, right? So you'll find that there's some plants that will need another plant to have the qualities of that other plant,
Yes.
sort of fend off pests, for example, and some diseases to a certain extent, because the root systems for some of these plants actually help fight some of the diseases that come from the soil, etc. And it is something that is a little bit more advanced,
Mm-hmm.
as tips for herb gardens, because just depending on how much you want to grow or how big your herb garden is going to be, you're going to need to start thinking about more intentional ways of making the seasons sort of speak to what's happening in your garden. And companion planting is definitely one of those things where you will have different plants being planted intentionally next to, or rather, plants being planted intentionally next to each other, so that they can actually help each other to grow with minimal. And this is the key. I think the reason why companion planting is actually so popular is because it allows you to sort of grow things in a more organic way. So instead of then using pesticides or herbicides to fight certain things that are going wrong in your garden, you have the plants actually doing it nature's way, and sort of fighting things that are happening or trying to go wrong by themselves.
That's so interesting. We definitely need to touch more on that one of these days.
I think so too, because there's like a whole list. So I've got a nice, cool thing, and actually, I think I can share this on the group afterwards. But there's like a whole chart of different plants that are sort of listed in such a way where if you're going to plant or plan to plant your kitchen garden at home, you can actually see which plant is best planted next to which plant and which plant thrives and fights off different types of ailments according to the way they've been planted, etc. So I can share that on the group actually, and that's obviously for your more seasoned and a more intentional herbal garden, if that's a word.
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. Right. But going back to the lazy way of doing things, which is not so bad, we chives next, and oh gosh, these are like the lazy gardener's dream because they grow fast, they require zero effort, and they add that perfect sort of oniony hit to eggs, to salads, to soups, and the bonus is actually the fact that their flowers are also edible. So after you've picked these chives, chekera, umayisa paunenge wamaisa pepe unogonongozoisa kadat kanodiwa kamwe extra kadat kacho, and it's my flowers nenge twakabuda twetwe because the flowers are edible, and they just also make that dish that you've sort of tried to use your chives in a little more attractive. And you can also find these seeds in the supermarket everywhere pretty much. When you start growing them, they can be harvested for a couple of seasons. So the whole year you can have chives in your garden, and you won't need to be replanting every now and again. You know what I mean?
Makes so much sense.
And then lastly, we've got some mint. Mint being perfect for teas, being perfect for desserts, and mojitos. Oh, who doesn't love a mojito?
In this heat.
Imagine, like I could really, really use one right away. And just because I actually have some mint in my garden, I will attempt to actually make a little bit of a mojito myself. Sanenda kuzorwa ka tea break kangu ndambodisakure ndazinza paya. I'll definitely take myself up on a mojito there.
Please make an extra one for me.
Right. If you manage to make your way down here, you can actually have an extra couple of those.
I'm coming. I'm running. I'm rushing.
Yeah. And while we're there, I just realized, we ought to share a lot more. Like, I'm just looking at everything that I need to share. And I haven't even begun with the lettuces. I haven't even begun with how to actually sort of do the actual planting and watering and growing your flavor, because the key is to make sure that when you establish what you've used a lot of in the kitchen, you then know what to plant, how to plant it, and how it's going to be transformed into your dish. And one of those things for me is the recipe I'm about to share now. And this has worked in such a magnificent way this season, because this season so we're going to make a homemade basil finishing salt, and it's so easy, guys. I've got lots of basil, so I've been trying to figure out what to do with it, and I put it in some corn, and I've tried it on grilled corn, boiled corn, roasted corn. It works on pretty much anything and everything. And what you're going to need is a cup of some basil, okay? So just half a cup of some basil there, and you're going to need some coarse salt, and that's the secret, because coarse salt is going to so much easier to use in a situation where you want to make a finishing salt, because what you're going to do is you're going to blend your basil leaf, and you're going to have some garlic powder in there as well. You're going to have just a squeeze of some lemon to make sure that it actually goes and glitters away. And then you will let that basil sort of come into a paste and just mix your coarse salt in there. And that zest of lemon, then you're going to just let it dry for a bit, let it dry out. spread the mixture onto a baking tray. That's the best way to try it, because you can sort of have some air in under it and let it go for a day or two, and you'll see that salt because naturally salt is meant to dry fast. And then you're going to store it away and make sure that you sprinkle it on eggs, on meats, on salads. But for me, this season, I've been using it on some corn. Guys, this season, my finishing salt, basil. Yeah.
This is really interesting. I can't wait to try it. Chef Shingi, thank you so much. Please give us your contact details and where people can link up with you when and especially if they require your services.
All right. So, guys, you can catch me on my mobile number. That's 0774 410 008. I'll repeat that, 0774 410 008. You can also catch me on my Instagram. That's at the Chef Life of Shingi. I'll repeat that again, at the Chef Life of Shingi. And you can also find my business on Facebook, which operates as the OK Chef ZW, which stands for the Outdoor Kitchen Chef.
Thank you so much, Chef Shingi, for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Ultimate Braai Master South Africa participant, and he also operates a business called the Outdoor Kitchen. And I've said it, and Chef Shingi has also said it. So make sure you go out there and eat the right flour. Thank you so much for tuning in. But right now, it's time for us to head straight to the news because our time on the clock is 11 o'clock.
This is Zim Paper's radio broadcast.